All right, so the Alpo frenzy continues unabated. I don't know why there's such a shocking amount of interest in Alpo. Well, actually, I guess I do know why. And you should thank Troy Reed more so than it's that Alpo is so interesting. Troy Reed is the guy who made the original documentary about him and Rich Porter, et cetera, Game Over. The only reason those are like the iconic Harlem people that everyone around the country, even New York, knows about is because they were some of the first people to have a urban documentary made about them. Yes, he was a somewhat of a big drug dealer. There was a lot of people of Alpo's level and a lot bigger at his same age at the same time. In New York, tons of them. Detroit, Chicago, LA, Miami. It was a bunch of Alpos. And some of them were a lot smarter than him and got away with what they were doing. So if you don't know, he was murdered the other night. Was it a blast from the past or was it from something he did new? Well, word on the street says different things. I won't say too much because then it might seem like I know something. But so Alpo was in the witness protection program under the name Abraham Rodriguez. There's all these conspiracy theories, of which Americans are obsessed with conspiracy theories about everything now, that it's the government, this is a way to put him back in witness protection. But if they wanted him back in witness protection, they would have just snatched him and put him in witness protection. They don't need to stage his murder. He's not anybody. There's thousands of guys in witness protection around the country. And he's the most famous black criminal in witness protection to embarrass the government by getting back involved with drugs, but he's far from the first or the biggest. Think of one of the hottest, fastest growing YouTube channels in the crime genre right now. Probably number one is the biggest rat of all, Sammy the Bull, Gravano, who now has cultivated this image as a lovable old man who tells stories about murder on his rapidly growing YouTube channel. But it's important to remember who these guys are. Sammy the Bull, for example, I was in jail in Arizona when him and his son came in to Arizona jail because Sammy the Bull confessed to 17 murders, told on John Gotti, got 5 years, got out, moves to Arizona, opens a restaurant, dares anybody to do anything about him being an informant and living in the open in Arizona, much like Alpo. But he became like the advisor to his son's, well, to a big ecstasy ring that he got his son mixed up in. And I think even his wife ended up getting probation for the case. So Sammy the Bull is somebody that was, even more ridiculous than Alpo. But yet he managed to weather the storm. He did 18 years in Florence Supermax, or part of it in Florence Supermax. And now he's out and he's got a third life where everybody loves him. And he's telling crazy stories because he confessed to all these murders so he can actually talk about killing people. I guess that's what Alpo should have done, but he was so obsessed with selling drugs that I was watching Sub-Zero did a long thing, and I guess Sub-Zero grew up in the same projects with him. You should watch Sub-Zero's long talk about Alpo. It's quite interesting, but he says, it was known that Alpo had little guys working for him, and Alpo was flicking out dime bags of heroin, I guess, as he was dying in his truck. So it's funny to think somebody would go and sell drugs for someone who just got out of prison and is an infamous snitch. But remember, at this point in 2021, if you got any IQ points, selling drugs, unless you're doing it on a real scale, I don't know, people are doing it just to be cool or something. It's kind of weird. So what am I trying to say here? I don't know. It's another example of this weird world we're living in. I don't know why Alpo was killed, who killed him, but he was back out selling apparently small amounts of drugs, which means people were willing to sell drugs for him. People were willing to give drugs to him. He was hanging out in Harlem like everything was all good. Was he setting people up again? I mean, that might sound hard to believe, but so I don't think he was, because he did his time. I don't know what the government would be holding over him. In the interview I did with Cavario and the immediate aftermath of it, he reminded me of the fact that, and he wrote about it in his book, Old Gangsters and Young Guns. Alpo worked during his incarceration as a professional expert witness, and I assume he was paid by the government. He would testify in cases that had nothing to do with him, that occurred many years after his incarceration, as an expert about drug dealing. Like, I could get on the stand, some guys in federal case in Kansas City, and say, well, you know, I was a drug kingpin in Harlem and Washington, D.C., so I know how the drug game works. And when these guys said, you know, the kids are ready to be picked up from school on the wiretap phone, it meant the drugs have been processed, come pick them up, things like that. So he helped put a lot of people in prison, even beyond the people he told on initially. And, you know, for you regular people that have never been around a high-level criminal, high-level criminals are sociopaths. They don't care anything about others. And so for them to tell on somebody, it means nothing to them. It only means something as it relates to their own ego and losing face or ego gratification. But those guys at the upper echelons, they know that everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people tell anyway, so they probably don't even feel like they lose any face. And that's why nobody does anything to them, because most of the guys out here, I didn't say all, but most have told in some kind of way. It doesn't mean their name's on a form or anything. And how do I know this? Well, I not only interact and talk to the street guys, but defense attorneys have told me all kind of things off the record about clients that have a reputation for never telling, federal agents. So all of what all of them say you have to take with a grain of salt, because they all have agendas, but I triangulate on the truth. And nobody wants to sit in jail for 40 years. So Alpo's dead. I don't think it was any conspiracy. Why were there no photos of him, his body being taken out? Why would there be? He's not a real celebrity. The paparazzi wasn't following him. It happened at 3:30 in the morning in still a rundown part of Harlem. Why would there be someone there to take a photo? And to the police, he was just another dead guy in a truck in a high crime area until several hours passed and they found out. So these guys are only celebrities to you criminal groupies out there, to the police, to the feds, to other people in the street. They're just another guy involved in selling drugs and telling and violence, and there's a lot of those around the country. And the phenomenon of these big criminals coming out and, you know, now becoming celebrities, even the ones who told, you know, like Sammy the Bull I was mentioning, is kind of disturbing. I mean, these are not people to be liked or heroicized. And then it's not that they shouldn't be liked because they told, it's that they shouldn't be liked because they murdered people and sold drugs. And it's funny that you'll worship someone who murders people and sells drugs but doesn't tell on other people who murders people and sells drugs, but as soon as they do that, oh, they're bad. You know, you guys are getting pretty weird. And by you guys, I mean the regular Americans. Like, what type of signal are you trying to send when you type comments about somebody being a snitch? Like, who are you? So, and then of course we have the very first and most gregarious snitch of all, Henry Hill, from the star of the greatest mob movie ever made, Goodfellas, a real classic piece of garbage. After he told on everybody, he got out. He was living in Seattle, stayed being a heroin addict and a dope fiend, kept committing crimes, got kicked out of witness protection. His daughters wrote a book about him. I mean, call him the worst scumbag father ever in history. And he spent his last years, you know, getting caught with cocaine and crystal meth, and then he would appear on the Howard Stern show, and he was selling jarred spaghetti sauce. He was a real clown at the circus. So I know I kind of rambled and touched on many different things. A lot of interest in Alpo's death, but it's just food for thought. Like, why are these guys interesting? Why is Sammy the Bull being treated like someone who should be listened to as if he's some wise man? I mean, he wasn't even really good at crime, actually. He was only effective during his years as a mobster as part of an organization. As soon as he told on them and was ostracized from that, he gets out, gets himself right back in major league trouble for the ecstasy ring in Arizona, brings his family into it, does 18 years, but now he's come up with the best hustlers of all, YouTube. So I'm not mad at you, Sammy. I just don't understand why regular people are so obsessed with some of these real dangerous, psychopathic, high-level criminals. So, see these guys on the street, be careful, they're still dangerous. Al Prophet, American Dope.